a wonderful class, everyone. I leave you in the hands of Mr. Franklin. Okay, Mr. Franklin, over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So today's class is going to be a continuation from the last class, the one where we're doing the home page, which I left off halfway. I asked you guys to complete it. So I will be completing that template today, still part of trying to help you guys understand CSS Flexbox very well. Okay, so at this point in time, I will be sharing my screen. Okay. All right, so. All right, you guys can see my screen, right? All right, so this is the template we'll be working on. If I remember clearly, very well last time, I think I stopped here. So let me open my VS Code. I hope you guys can see my VS Code.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. I mean, today is going to be a good day then. All right, so opening live server. And all right, so this is where I stopped last time. Yes, this is where I stopped last time. And this is where I'm going to continue from. Okay, so before I continue, I want to say something. If there's anyone who actually has any questions so far on trying to do this project and you weren't able to actually meet up with it, and you have a question that's actually bothering you about how to use CSS Flexbox and stuff, okay, before I start, I'll just give you a minute or two to voice your questions out, and then as I'm going on with the tutorial there, I'll answer your question. So, does anybody have any question? Okay, Wisdom Iwuna, your hand is raised. What's your question?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is this. First of all, my first question is, how does CSS, how does Flex in itself, how does it work, number one? Then how does Flexbox work? Because sometimes it's very confusing. I attempted the task, and for some reason, Flexbox, maybe I wasn't implementing it properly, but it wasn't just coming out fine. Because I don't really understand the concept of Flexbox actually. Because this Flexbox, it doesn't come out the way I think it should. When I try to use Flex itself, then I don't know if you could help me clear confusion. Thanks.
All right. Okay. So I think I will start from there. Thank you very much, Wisdom, for your question. So I think I will actually be using this time to actually show you guys how to implement Flex and Flexbox very well. Okay. So with no further ado, I will start. And this is where I'll be starting from. I think I'll be continuing from here, this section. All right. So down to my VS Code. And all right. I hope you guys can still see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll be starting from here. First thing I do is actually make a section, and I'll call this section, let's see. Okay, I'll just give this a section of article. And inside this article, I'll be giving a row, like I did the last time, if you guys could remember very well. So I'll just give this a row with a row 100. Okay. Okay, sorry, I think I made a mistake here. It should be dots. control 100. All right, so this is this. Then from what we have here, there are two divs, this here and this here. Okay, so let's continue. And we have a div, so I'll call this dot, let's say, article image container. And inside that, I'm going to have an image tag with article image inside. Okay, so inside there, I'm going to be having like images. Slash and article image.jpg, and just call this image of a lady. Okay, and I think that will be that for this article image container. All right, so the next one is going to be article text container. Article text container, and inside article text container, I'll be having a paragraph which I'll call article text. A paragraph, so this is going to be p. Article text, and all right, so this is this. Let me go back and check this. Okay, so all right, and go back and put some lorem 20. Okay, so this is our HTML all done. So let's go and check it out what we have. Okay, too big. All right, so for the question that was asked not long ago, how we actually use Flex and Flexbox together. Now, this is what I'll be doing here. I'll take away this class so I can actually show you how we use Flex and Flexbox together. Oh, sorry. All right. So using Flex and Flexbox, it's not actually quite hard. So now the first thing you have to do is display Flex. After displaying Flex, once you display Flex, everything actually shows side by side. So you could use Flex in many different ways. Flex is actually very responsive. If you use Flex and you give the Flex a direction, and you say you want the direction to be in a row, using a Flex direction of row will actually make things go side by side together, the way Flex is actually supposed to be by default. But if you use column, it's going to be like each element inside that is being displayed as Flex will have to take like the full width of the Flex container. That way, like they just stack upon themselves. That way, like that. So that's how it actually works. But for today, I won't be using that on this project because I had already worked on it in the last class. So I think after this class and you guys are done with the assignment, then I can actually push this code to Git and keep the link for you guys. So you guys could use this as a point of correction to review your code. Okay, so back to this, let me continue with the design. Okay, so first of all, the first thing we have to do is actually keep this image. And from what we can see, this image is quite large. It's actually tall a little bit. So first things we'll do is that we'll give a padding around this container, which is this article here. So instead of display flex, this was supposed to show something. I'll first give it a background color of white. And I will use a padding of, let's say, 10 rem. And let's see what we have. Okay, rem is actually too much, so I'll make it 5. And this is okay, not very okay. Let's see, I'll make it 3. And it should be good. Yes, this is good. Okay, so first things first, let's give this a height. So what will we be giving a height here? We'll be giving this image container, and this image text container a height, the same height. So image container and this image text container. Okay, so first thing we're doing is I'll be giving it the height. Let's just give the height of, say, 50 rem. And let's see what we have. Okay. All right, so giving it the height of 50 rem, this should do. So the next thing we'll actually want to style is the image container, but you can see that the image is very big. So the image container, then giving it the height, we'll give it a width. And let's just say, give the width of, okay, I'm not going to use width this time around. I will use the flex, let's see. I'll use flex grow 1 and flex shrink of 0 and flex base of, let's see, 30%. All right. Okay, so doing it this way and then getting the image. Let's get the image, which is going to be article image. All right. And then the article image itself. With the width of 100%. Let's see what we have. Okay, so this is set and it's beginning to look more like this. So let's see what we have. All right, so you could change this into more to 40. Let's see. All right, so a whole lot better. Okay, looking a little bit big. All right, so the next thing we are actually doing is using the article text container. So we set the width for the article text container. And this is what we'll be using. First thing, we give it a flex grow of 3 and a flex shrink of 0 and a flex basis. A flex basis of say 75%. Sorry. All right, so let's see what we have. Okay, this is way too much. So change this to 1. Let's see what we have. Okay, all right, so it is looking okay now. So if we notice, we found that there is actually space between these guys. So let's try to add that space here. So to add that space, let's see. I'll give a padding. Okay, but before I do that, let me give a padding first, and let's say padding of 1.3 rem around it, and if I check, yeah, it is looking good. Okay. All right, so I am noticing something. I want to use the border to actually check this. But pixel. I want to check the height of this particular element. Let's see how big it is. Okay, very big. So I want to inspect and reduce the height. Sorry. Okay, so okay, so I'll leave this at 35. And this is it. Okay, so I think I can take this off now and inside here I could see display flex, and because the contents are actually centered. If you look at all right, guys, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I hope I'm loud enough.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so if you actually take a look at this particular section, you find that the contents are centered at the center. You see that this text here is kind of like in the center, like kind of like in the center with this image. I don't know if you guys can see this. So there's actually a way you could do this with Flexbox, and that's by using the align items property of CSS. The way you actually do it for align items to work very well is that you have to give the element in which you want to center its content, a height. So in our case, the element is going to be this, this image container. Sorry, this, yes, the image container and the text container, which is here. So since you actually did give them a height, so the best way to actually centralize their contents is to use display flex and align items. That way it's actually going to work. If you use align items without setting a height, you might not necessarily see it because it's not going to show, because the content of the element is actually going to be using the default height, which is the height of the content in which it is in. And what you're trying to centralize vertically is the content itself. So if I use align items and I set it to center, and we come around and check this, we'll find out that you see now that the content is now centered. Okay, so I think the next thing I have to do is try and make this text a little bit more so you guys could actually see it better. Let's say I could just copy this and paste some more, so it actually comes out a little bit better. All right, so this is good. Okay, now our text is actually quite big, unlike what is here. So let's try to style that. And to do that, we need to get the article text. Copying the article text and CSS. So getting the article text container, and then getting the article text. Then we set the font size. Font size, I will basically give it a font size of 1.3 rem. And let's see. Okay, it's still a little bit big. Let's try 1.1. All right, it's a lot smaller now, and it's a bit thick. So what I'll do here is the font weight, I will set the font weight to normal, and then let's see what happens. Okay, this is normal, and normal is still a little bit thick, so I could set it to lighter, and let's see. Okay, I could use let's use numbers 100. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's a little bit light now, but still okay. More of the same, a little bit. All right, so if you also look further, there's also a lot more space between each sentence line. I don't know if you guys can actually see that compared to ours. So I think we need to change that a little bit. So all we use here is line heights. Sorry, line heights. I will be giving it 1.3 rem, and yeah, that should do it. So okay, it's actually too small, so I could give it 1.8. 1.8 should be able to work its magic. All right, still too small, so make it 2 rem. And yes, it is a whole lot better now. All right, so I just want you guys to understand something. This text here, this fanciful text here, is actually an image. So I won't be adding it because I didn't add this as part of my images. But if you could get this image and add it here, still no problem. So with that, I'll be moving on to the next section, which is this spring collection here. So, and I think we'll be making use of icons here too. So I think I'll add that icon too. All right, so let's get on with this then. Now back to our HTML. Let's create the section for this. And this is what we'll do. Section that we call this gallery. Let me see if I've actually used gallery here before. Okay, I've used gallery. So let's see, I actually did give the images. Okay, I'll use slide then. Let's use slide here. So section.slide, and inside the slide, I'll give a row of a width of 100. Let's see. Yeah, I'll give a row of a width of 100 because this actually spans the full width of the screen. So a width of 100 and this. Now, the first thing I'm actually going to do here is add this, or before I add this, I'll actually give a little bit of padding. You see that it's not necessarily starting at the top, but for me to show you this very well, let me add the HTML. So this is Spring Collection. So adding this, let's use a H3. So H3, and then I will add this and say Spring Collection. All right, so let's see what we have. All right, so Spring Collection is actually showing by the edge here, and there is no padding in it, so we can't actually see it very well. It's actually at the bottom of the screen. So let me add a little bit of padding to make this a little bit spacious. So I'm going to take this class here, slide, and I'll add padding in it. And I'll give it a padding of say 3.5 frame. So all around. All right, so I think it should be looking good now. Yeah, so I actually created some custom classes from the last class, which I'll be using. So the class I created was custom fonts. I don't know if you guys could remember. I mentioned something about the dry principle. Don't repeat yourself. So this is where it actually comes into play. So adding this custom font to it is actually going to make it a lot stylish, but then it's not going to be okay. It's changed the font. I think the only thing I have to do now is then I'm actually going to have to do now is to do the heading and all. So I'm going to say slide heading. All right, so I'm going to my CSS. I'm going to edit this. Slide heading. Okay. Now, let's see what we can actually do here. I think before we even continue, looking at this particular slide, notice that there's a background color here. So I think I will have to set that. Let me set the background color first. Okay, so I think our color is up already. So let's check and see. All right, yes, the color is up. And then I will give the fonts a color of white. So to make sure everything appears white. All right, so I think the next thing we have to do now is to increase the font size. And that's what I'll be starting with here. So font size, I've given it a font size of say 3 rem. Okay, this is still not much compared to this. I'll add, so let's say 3.5 rem, and okay, this is good. Then I am going to add a font style of italics to give it that stylish slant look. Okay, so then next thing I'm actually going to do is centralize this text. So I'm going to say text align center, and I think that should do it. Okay, let's see why it's not working. Text align center. Yep. Let's see. All right, so it's not really aligning to the center. So let me see why that's not working. Okay. Let's see. There are more than one ways to actually do it. So if text align center isn't actually going to work, then I'm actually going to have to target this row 100 and add it to the slide. So what I'll do is I'll say slide, and inside slide I'll target the row 100, and I'm going to justify content. I'll set it to center, and that it should make it work now. Yes, so it's now centralized. So there are 1,001 ways to actually centralize elements in HTML and CSS. One is just what I've showed you. You could display flex and say justify content center, and it's automatically going to centralize the text. The other one is you could say text align center, which also work. Another way you could actually do that is to use margin and set it to auto, and margin setting it to auto is actually going to centralize the text too. So there are 1,001 ways to actually do that. So moving on, the next thing we're supposed to do is set these images. And to set these images, Martins, RM, you're raising your hand. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go on.
I want to know, when can we use like when you are using REMs for the padding? So when are we supposed to use REM, or we use pixels? What's the difference between the two?
Okay, so I explained this in the last class. I said the reason you're using REM is because I'm trying to introduce you guys to a little bit of responsive design. So when it comes to responsive design, REM is a lot more preferable than pixels, because REM has a thing to do with the it is more sensitive than pixels, in the sense that it has a lot to do with the screen. So it works according to your screen, say resizing it, and then although you still have to twitch it a little bit, but then it's still a lot more responsive than using pixels. So I prefer using REM than using pixels. I think the only way I use pixels is more or less for setting a border radius and padding sometimes. But for fonts, REM is actually the best. Okay. All right, so moving on. So the next thing I actually have to do is set these images. So to do that, let's carry on. We do it this way. I'm actually going to call this slide. So I'll call this slide image container. And I need 4 of it. So I'm going to duplicate it by 4. So I'm going to say times 4. And inside this, I need an image tag. Let's start with an image tag, and I'll call this slide image. Okay, so now after doing this, going to say images, and sorry, then I'll scroll down to slide image 1, and I'll just copy this and duplicate it 4 times. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'll basically give all of this the same alternate text. So I'm just going to call this images of online products. Okay. All right, so I'll change this to 2, change this to 3, I'll change this to 4. All right, so let's see what we have. Okay, so I think our images are they're way too big, and okay. So the next thing we have to do is actually start styling all of this so everything fits in the screen together and stop breaking the flow of the web page. So the first thing we have to do for the slide heading, I think we'll actually give it a margin bottom to give it some space between the slide images and the heading. So I'll say margin bottom. I'll use the margin bottom of say 1.3 rem. And then next, I am going to go for the slide image container. This is a slide image container. I'm going to say, I'll give it a height first of all. I'll give it a height of, let's say, 35 rem, or I could say 350 pixels, whichever. And it's not going to show now. That's because we haven't actually done some responsive design on the images, or haven't started styling the images yet. So next thing I'm actually going to say is overflow. I'm going to hide. So what overflow does is actually to hide contents that actually overflow from the parent container. So the next thing I'm actually going to style now is the slide image. Oh, sorry about that. So slide image. And I'll set the width to 100%. And if you take a look now, you'll see that there's going to be some changes. Okay. Yes, there are some changes. And you now see that everything is actually displaying side by side. Okay, so let's fix that. Okay, so to fix that, I am actually going to create a different row. I think a row of 100 again. So I'm going to say dot row 100, and I'm going to take everything in this image away. Okay, so and put it in here. Okay, so go back and check it now. All right, so you see that everything is actually different. Now, we found that there's a difference between us and theirs. So we see that these images look different. They actually span the full width of the container in which they are in, but ours is actually a little bit different. So think I noticed they used a background image instead of an image tag. Okay, so I think we'll change that. Okay, so let's actually change this. So we'll skip using the image tag and use background images for this. Okay, so using a background image. Let's do this. Okay. Okay, so okay, let's go ahead and start this. So going to the slide image container, we'll actually set the backgrounds, and then I'll say, first of all, we'll use a background repeats. Before adding the images, I think let's try and set everything. So background repeats of no repeats, and use the background position of center, and the background size of cover. All right, now, so to set the background images, since there are different images for different divs, so what we'll do is we'll give a separate class for that, and we'll use it here. So slide container, I'll use slide container, image container 1. All right, so let's do this. Image 2, image 3, and then image 4. Okay, so let's set the background images for each of them. So let's say slide image 1. Let's do slide image 1. And then I think I'll just duplicate this 4 times. Okay, so 2, 3, and 4. All right, so we're going to go out of the CSS file, CSS folder, and go into the images folder. And then inside the images folder, I will go to slide and pick it. Okay, so basically this is what I will do for all of them. So let me just copy this and paste. So change this to 2. I'll change this to 3. And I will change this to, oh, sorry. I'll change this to 4. All right, so let's take a look and see what we have. Okay, so it's not showing. Wonder why that is. So whenever there's actually a bug, I think the first thing as a developer, the first thing we should learn to do is to always try and debug our codes. So trying to see why it's not showing. After giving it a height of 350 pixels and it's still not showing overflow hidden. Okay, so let's see why it's not working. So going back here, let's see. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm trying to see why the image is actually not coming up. So Okay, so the row is actually showing and the image is actually not showing. So let me refresh first of all and see. It's still not coming up. All right, so I think the next thing I'll actually do is try and find out if these images are showing or if the container which the images are supposed to be displaying from is actually showing. So I'll try and give it a border. If the border shows, then that means it should be a problem from my side. Okay. Sorry. Okay, I think I see why it is actually not working. That's because the images are compressed together. I will let's change that. So okay. Let's see why that's not working. Let's do a little more debug and check the parent elements of all of them. So going to set the border and see. Okay, so guys, this is a process every developer has to go through, and it's called debugging. So whenever you try to do something and your code doesn't work, sometimes you could actually try fixing it on your own. And the first thing I actually try to do in terms of CSS is to try to see if my element, HTML element, is actually being displayed. If it's being displayed, I'll try to see if CSS is actually going to work on it, which is what I'm doing now. And CSS is working, and I think I'm beginning to see where the problem is. And to do that, to fix this, I will give these guys the flex container. I'll give each of them a flex grow of 1. So they all come out together. And go ahead and check this out now. You see that the images are actually showing. So all those actually the problem was that there was no width assigned to all of them. That's why they weren't showing very well. So adding the width now, I think I'll give them a margin. I'll add a margin of, I think I'll give them a margin of 1 rem each. Let's see how that goes. Okay, I think a margin of 1 rem is actually too much. So I'm going to change that to 0.5. That's 0.5 rem. 0.5, and that should be it. That should be enough. Okay, so let's compare that with this. It's a lot smaller, so let's make us a little bit small and change this to 0.3. Let's check it out. Okay, so yeah, this is looking way better. Okay, so I think that's that. Let me actually take away this border. We won't be needing this border anymore. So, all right. So, so this is what we have. All right, it's looking a whole lot better. It's looking like this already. So, the next thing we have to do is to add this icon here. And to add this icon, this is what we do. We come here. First things we are actually going to do is to add an icon library where we can actually get this icon from. Okay, so to do that, I will go here and then I will look for further icons. All right, so the first thing I'm actually going to do is click on Get Started. Okay, so clicking on Get Started, this is where I'm actually going to copy what I'm actually going to use for the further icons. And from what I'm seeing here, I'm going to have to include a CDN. I'm actually going to use a CDN, which is more like a script hosted online. I'll copy this. And I'm going to paste this at the bottom of my web page. Here, just outside the main. And we're doing this because we actually want to get to use icons here. So the way feather icons actually work, feather icons is actually an icon library built with JavaScript, so JavaScript and CSS. So since we haven't gotten to JavaScript yet, so I'm not going to explain much. The only hint I'm actually going to give is you could actually use a CDN, which is a content delivery network, and post it online since you're going to be using data. So, or you could download the full package and then extract the files and post the files on your web page. So I'm actually going to be looking for this icon here, this arrow icon. And to do that, feather icons. Okay, this is it, arrow right. So I'm going to click. And what it actually does is that it downloads it for me, but I do not necessarily need the SVG file. So I'm actually going to look at the documentation again on how to use it. Now, this is the demo they said on how to use SVG icons. So okay, so this is okay. This is what I'm going to use. And I'll come to my HTML and I'll make another row of 100. So I'll make another row of row -100. I'll also give it a special class of slide icon. Slide icon, that's what I'm going to call it. Slide icon container. So, and then inside it, I am actually going to place that icon and go back. And although this is way beyond the scope of this class, you don't necessarily have to use feather icons, but I have to use it on the go. I use feather icons a lot, so I'm actually going to paste this here. When you guys will actually be doing this, you could actually use any image of your choice, placing that feather icon there. I'm going to go back and into feather icons and get the name of that icon, which is arrow right. So this is going to be arrow right. Okay, so everything is working actually very fine. So let's go and see what we have. All right, so the icon is now here, but it's a little bit, it's small. So I think what I'm actually going to do is increase the font size of the icon, and what I'm actually going to do is that I'll copy this slide icon container. First thing I'm actually going to do is give it I'll give it a margin top so it's not too close to the images. So let's say margin top, and I could say 1.4 rem. Okay, so 1.4 rem, and then I'll just add a font size to the parent container, which is actually going to affect the child elements there. So I could just say font size, and I could leave it at 2 rem. And okay, let's see what we have. Okay, it's not actually coming up. So I think I'm going to have to target this myself. So let's say slide container and sorry, slide container and I'll just change this font size here and put it here. And hopefully it should work now. Okay, it's not working. So once again, I'm actually going to debug and see why that's not coming up. All right, it's actually being displayed as an SVG element, so that's why it's not working. So before I continue, this is what I am going to do. Okay. I'm actually supposed to try and fix this, but the reason I'm not going to fix this is because if I try fixing this, I'm actually going to do something that's more complicated than the scope of this course. So I'll leave it for now. And I'm going to move over to the next section. And this is the next section. So the section is actually divided into two. Yes. So, sorry, okay, not into two. It's actually one section. Well, okay, two different sections. So the first section is going to be called products. Let's see. So I'll see section dot products, and I'll give it a row of 100. Okay. Oh, sorry. I forgot to put full stop there. Yeah, and like so. Now let's see what we have in this section. I think the first thing we have in this section, we have 3 divs, and these 3 divs, 2 are images and 1 is just text with a couple of things in it. Okay, so let's actually do this. Let's create the HTML template for this, and let's see. So we'll call this product container. Okay, so we say a product container, and we're actually going to multiply it by 3. All right. So inside the product container, we put in images. So we'll create the image. Okay. All right. Sorry about this. All right. Okay. So let's go on. Okay. So inside here, I'm going to add my source. Okay, so images, and I'm going to get product 1 and my alt. Then add alt. And the alt, I'm going to say image of a shoe. Okay, so I'm actually going to copy this, and I'll paste this here. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we have. Okay, it is so big. All right, So then I am going to give this another class. I'll call this product. Instead of product container, I'll call this a product description. So let's see. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is to style the product container. Let's check that out first and see what we have here. Okay, so before I style the product container, I think I'm going to style the product itself. So product. Let's see. Let's take a look at products very well. Okay, product has a padding. I'll give product a padding of 4 rem, which is going to be bigger. Okay. Yes, this looks like it. I think I'm actually going to add 4.5. Yes, and then the next thing I'm actually going to do is go to products, the product container. I hope you guys can hear me clearly. I hope my voice is not fading into the background.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
All right. Okay, so product container, and then next thing I'm actually going to do is set the height of the product container. So I'm going to set the height, and what I'll use for the height is going to be, let's just say 250 pixels. Okay, and the width, I'm going to use flex to set that. So I'm going to give it a flex grow of 1. So yes, so I'll give it a flex grow of 1, and let's go. Okay, we can't check it out now because it's not going to show. The images are still going to be covering it. And then what we could actually do is say product container and the image tag itself, and I'll set the width to 100%. Now, if you guys have been noticing so far, there's actually a pattern to which I actually set images. So I don't just set width and height on images. I actually put the images inside a div, and I set the width and height inside the div that I am putting the images. So that way it's actually going to be easier to style, and it's not going to be very, very difficult. So like what we have here now, this is actually an example. So let me actually explain further what I mean. Now, from here, we can actually see that these images are quite big because the div we use is actually a very big one. But compared to this, these images are quite small. So the best way we could do this is not by reducing the height of the image. Rather, we reduce the height of the image container, which is this guy here. So I'm going to reduce this from 250 to 150, and then let's see what happens. If I reduce this to 150, and then I think I'm going to say overflow hidden, and that should do it. Okay. Okay, I think I'll leave it back at 250. So, all right, it's actually a bit skewed. So I am going to work on that. And one more thing, I'm supposed to add this product description to make it complete. So let me add this product description here. Product description, and give it a flex grow of 1, 2, flex grow of 1. Okay, so let's see what we have. Let's refresh. All right, so it's not actually going to show because we haven't put any content in it. So let's try and put some content. I think we have a sample products and a price tag. So let's say we use a H4 and just call this sample product, and beneath it, let's see, I think we have a div which I will call price tag, and how much do we have here? 9.95. So I'll just replicate that. Okay. And the next thing we have is paragraph. So I'll just say paragraph and do a little lorem 10, just 10 lines of lorem. And next thing we have is a button. So a button. So say button, and we'll call this button, okay, add to cart. So just say add to cart. Yeah. Okay, and let's see what we have. Okay, so it's beginning to look a lot more like what we need. So back to this. Let's try and see if we can make this work. The images are not showing properly, like the way we actually want them to show. So what we could actually do is, since the width is actually kind of too much and it's making the images not show clearly, I think we'll have to change it and put the height there. Okay, so I could say, so what I mean is this. Now, we actually set the width of the image to 100%. And from what we are seeing here, it's making the images not display properly. Now, there are two ways in which you could make images responsive. Either use only the height or use only the width. So using the width is actually making the image kind of cut or show half. So I'm going to use height here. Using height, this is what we have. Okay, using height actually works, but it makes the images a little bit smaller. So I am actually going to work on that. And this is what I am actually going to do. I'll change this back to width. I'll change this back to width, and I'm going to display flex here. And I am going to align item center. And that should fix it. Okay, that actually fixes it, but I think I still need to work on the width of the images. So product container and product description, I'll be giving both of them equal padding. So product container and product description. I'll be giving them a padding of, say, 1 rem. Okay. Compared to this, it's actually quite small. Okay. Let's see. Change this to 0.8 rem, and I think that should work. Okay, it's a lot smaller now. Okay, yeah, it's a lot smaller. But I found that the images here are longer. So I think I have to work on that. So I think I might extend this to about 350 pixels. All right. It's going to, okay, maybe 300. All right, so this is a lot better. Okay, so I think the next thing I have to work on now is this part where I have the sample product and all. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is work on the sample products. First things first, find that the text is actually centered. So I am actually going to centralize the text, and to do that, I'm going to go to product description. I'm going to say okay, product description. I'm going to display flex first. Flex, and then I'm going to align item center. So, okay. Since it's actually trying to distort itself, I'll set the flex direction. Flex direction. I'll use column so that everything stacks on top of one another, like this. Yes, like this. And yes, it's centralized. It's looking better. Okay, I'm going to add height here, so that the align item center can actually show very well. Okay, so it's a lot better now. Okay, so I think we're actually going to continue with styling this. And the first thing we want to do is make sure that everything stays to the left of the page. So let's actually do that. So the first thing we're actually going to work on is a sample product, which is the page 4. So let's do that. Sample product. Oh, sorry, that's supposed to be product description, and I'll give it a H4. First things first, I'll change the font size. Let's change the font size a little. Let's try and make it look like this. So I could give it a font size of 2.4 rem, and then I can actually, the font weight, I'm going to make it lighter, and let's see what we have. Okay, it's a little bit lighter, but then the font size is too much, so I'm actually going to reduce that. Okay, sample product. I think I have to reduce the font size a little too. So using the font size, I could say 1.7. And okay, it's looking good. So I come down here and say text align. I could text align, set it to the left, so that all the text actually align to the left. I think I am actually going to, okay, rather than using text align left, I could say justify content left. So, sorry, not left, sorry, that's supposed to be start. Yes, start. And it doesn't seem to show. Okay. Let me use flex start. Okay. All right, this wants to form my hands. I'm coming. Let me use a text align here. Text align left. And let's see what we have. All right. Okay, I think this is already aligned to the left for now. So the next thing I'm actually going to work on is this price tag. Okay, back to the price tag. So product description, and then the price tag. Now see text align left, and then next I'm actually going to do is to increase the font size of this, or the font width. So I'll say font width, so I'll make it bold. Font width to be bold, and yeah, I think I'll increase the font size a little. Let me increase the font size. I could give it 1.5 rem. Okay, all right, very good. Then for the paragraph, let's see what we have for the paragraph. The product description. Okay, product description and then the paragraph. I think the first thing I'm actually going to do is the font size. I'm actually going to reduce it to 1 rem. So reducing the font size to 1 rem is still not enough. I think I'll reduce it to half of 1 rem, which is 0.5. And this should do too small. Sorry. Let's see, 7. Let's see, it's a 9. All right. But it's a lot smaller than 4. Okay, so I think I see what's costing it. And that's because after setting the flex scroll, we didn't give a specific height in which we wanted these things to actually a specific width. Sorry. So to do that, I'm going to say flex basis. I'll give it a width of 33.33%, and I am going to copy this, and I'm going to give it to the product container too, so that way they all stay the same fixed width. Okay, so let me make this a lot smaller. So 0.7. Okay, it's bigger than that, so I'll use 0.8. Yes, and that should do it. Yes. Okay. So after doing this, let me add a little more text to this, and I work on the button. Okay. Yes. Okay. This is okay. Too much. Yep. We're good. Okay. Okay, and then let me work on the button. So product description and button. Product description and then target the button. Open. And the first thing we actually want to do for the button is kind of like want to give it a width. Okay, so to give it a width. Sorry, typo. Give it a width of 250 pixels. Let's check this out. Okay, that's too long. Let's bring it down to 150. Let's see what it's there. Yes, 150. It works very well. And then next thing we want to do is give it a little padding. Padding of say 1.3 rem. Okay, I think that's too much. Okay, so I'll 1.3 rem, I reduce it to 1, and okay, this is still too much. So 0.7. Okay. Still a little bit much, so it's at 5. Yep, so this is the kind of size we're looking for. And we're giving it a border radius. A border radius, so will be rad. Okay, the border radius of 1 rem. Okay, almost there. Make it 1.1 rem. All right, so that's what we're looking for. And give it a background color of black. I'll change the color to white. So background color of black and a color of white. And we will remove the border, so it's going to say border on set. Okay, so removing the border now, we see that it is a lot smaller. So let's increase the padding. So I'm going to increase the padding from 5 to 7. And the border radius, I'm going to increase it to 2. Okay, I think I'll make that 3. Sorry. All right, okay, so this is a lot better. And if you look at the text, we find that the text is all capitalized. Now, there's a way you can actually do that with CSS, and it's called text transform. Text transform, and I set it to uppercase, and it's going to make the text, capitalized all around. Then, if you notice something, when you go over the button and you hover, see that it changes color. Now, I am actually going to show you guys how to do this. So, this is how we actually do it. You use the pseudo class selector, and you look for on hover. Sorry, it's supposed to be 1 hover, and I change the background color on hover. So I could say BGC, change the color to, sorry, okay, not this. Yes, to this, and let's see what we have. So if I come here and I hover on it, you guys see that cursor changes. Then I'm actually going to set the cursor to pointer. Now, this is what this cursor pointer actually does. If you come to theirs and you hover on their button, you see this hand it gives you. That's what the cursor pointer does. Initially, ours wasn't like this. Once you hover on it, let me show you. If I comment this out and I come here and I hover on it, the background color changes, but you see the cursor is still showing the arrow. So you use this cursor pointer to actually make it show like this hand, like this here, okay? And then I think what I have to do now is put this little bit of spacing between these texts. So for sample product, I am actually going to set the product, and this is going to be margin bottom. I'll set the margin bottom to 1 rem. That should be a lot, okay. Set it to 1.2 rem. And then also for the text, I think I also work on the price tag too. Set the price tag, give it a margin bottom of 1 rem. Okay, and yeah, and for the text and the button, I also give it the same thing too. Also give it a margin bottom of same 1 rem too. All right, so this is beginning to look a lot like what we have, but from what we can see, we found that we can't actually align the contents to center. Okay, so to do that, let's take this off, and yeah, we have gotten what we wanted. Just make the text actually display at the left like this, or like this, and yeah, that's what we have. Now, I think the last section that's actually here is this section. Okay, so this is a section that's actually left. So let us actually try and work on this section. Okay, so before I continue, this is just going to be a quick one. If you have any questions at all, let's say 1 or 2 questions, just drop them in the chat and I'll look at them, and once I'm done with this, then I'll give you guys a reply to that before the class is over. So we don't get to eat up more time we have for the class actually. Okay. All right, so for this, let's start. This is going to be the last section. So I'll call this last section subscribe. It could be a footer. So I'm going to use footer here. And I'll call this subscribe. Row of 100. And inside this row of 100, we're going to give it's going to be, it's actually divided into 2 equal halves here. So picture is taking one side and the text is actually taking one side. Okay, so I'm going to create 2 divs. I'll call these divs, I'll say subscribe image container, and this is going to be for the image. So this is it's going to be a background image, and I think I'll just multiply this by 2 and change the name of the other one. So this is going to be subscribe text container. I'll call it that. First thing I'm actually going to do is to work on the subscribe. So I'm going to give it a height. I'll give it a height of 100 viewport height, because it actually spans like the full width. If you take a look carefully, you see that it's actually long. Okay, so this is it. Yes, so next I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this subscribe image container and subscribe text container and give them equal width. So subscribe image container and give a comma here. Sorry. Subscribe text container, and this is it. And I'll give them a flex grow of 1 and a flex string of 0 and a flex basis of 50% each. So that way they would take the full height of the container. Okay, and okay, I will also say height, because I want them to take the height of their parent element. So I could say height inherits. So they should inherit the height of their parent. That's what this stands for. So going on to style the image, subscribe image container, I could say this and the background image. That's what I'll be using here. So you guys see what I'm doing. Background image. Going out of this, go to images and call the subscribe.jpg and background repeats, no repeats, and background size, set it to cover. Okay, and always background position, the background position to center. I think that's that. Okay, so still again, one still doesn't want to show this time around. So let's see what's actually causing this problem. Okay, so I'm guessing the problem is the height. Okay, so I think I'll set the height instead of to inherit, I'll set the height to 100%. It's showing, but it's not showing. Okay, so I think I'll still do the same way I did the last time. And I'll set it to border and I'll say 1 pixel solid black. So I can see what's actually going on. So as you can see, there's actually, you can see that it's not like it's not showing, it's actually showing, but I have to set this. So I'll take this height off of here from subscribe and I'm going to leave it here. And I'm going to close this. And now if we check this out, it's showing very well. Okay, so let me take away this. I think this is it. So it's actually showing very well here. Okay. All right, so it's a little bit longer. So I would say 130 foot height. So it's actually longer than usual. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the first thing you're actually going to set is this subscribe. So let's do that. Sorry, let me close this. I'm done with this. Okay, so let's go back to the HTML and let's write this out. Okay, so I'm using a H3 for this. I'll call this subscribe. Yeah, subscribe. And then there's a form here. Okay. Let me keep the form. So this is going to be form. I'll call this form subscribe form. And I don't need form actions for this, so I'm going to take that off. And inside here, I think I'll do a flex direction of row so that the forms can actually stay line by line. So, all right, so let's just carry on. Okay, rather than doing that, this is what I'm actually going to do. I'm going to say, going to use a div and call this input container. Input container, and I'm going to multiply this by 2. So multiply by 2. And in the first one, First one, I'm actually going to put in these two input elements. So it's going to be inputs, sorry. Let's see. We're going to use inputs. And this is going to be inputs, yep, times 2. So 2 inputs texts. And first one is actually going to be for email. And it's going to have a placeholder. I'll set the placeholder to enter a valid email address. So let's put that. Okay, and the next one is actually going to enter your name. So since it's a text, copy this and I paste this here. So enter your name. All right, so for the button, I'll call this, I'll say button. I'll give it a class and I'll just say submit. Give it a type. I'll call it submit. Okay, so this is it. Let's go ahead and check our HTML and see what we have. So this is what we have. Let's go ahead and style this to look like what we need. So the first thing we're actually going to do is copy this class. This is our class of custom fonts, because this is going to be a custom font. So I'll call this subscribe heading. So coming down here, I'll give this a class. I'll call this subscribe heading. And this is the custom font. And the next, okay, I think with that we are actually set. So what's left? I think the only thing we didn't add, okay, we haven't added this sample text, so I'm just going to add a text in the end. I think outside the form, that will be fine. So I will just add p dots, call this subscribe text. Just put some theorem 15. Okay. And I am going to skip putting the icons. I think I'll leave that task to you guys to actually finish. Okay. So okay, so let's go to our CSS and try to style it. It's almost time up for the class. So but let's try and see if we can rush up and style this to the end. All right, so the first thing we're actually doing is subscribe heading. Let's do that. So subscribe heading. We need it to look like this. So first things first, we're going to give it a position of relative, and we're going to give it a text align of center, and we're going to give it a font size of 3.5 rem. We're going to give it a font style of italics. Let's see what we have. Okay. Okay, looks somewhat like this. Let's give it a font weight. That's normal. More like something bold, but not very bold. 800. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, looks like this. Now let's try to make this line here. I think we didn't. Let's try to make this line here. Now, this line could be achieved using so many ways, but I think I'm going to be using one way. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I think my network just had a glitch. So, okay. So, let me continue. A reply would be nice, so I could know if I'm actually still recording. So to do that, I'm going to have to position, not relative this time, but absolute. Position absolute, and then I am going to position at the top. Top is going to be 0 and left. Going to position left 0, 2. Okay, and going to position width, not position this time. I'm going to set the width to 100%, and I am going to set the height to let's say 4 pixels. Okay, and after that, I'm going to set a background color. I'm going to set that color to this. All right, let's see what we have. Okay, this is for us, but it's not. It's too long. So this is actually kind of shorter. So I'm going to reduce the width a little. But to do that, I'm going to have to centralize the text. So how am I going to centralize this line? Sorry, not the text. I'm going to say, give the text a width of a left of 50%, and then I'm going to transform. I'm going to translate x minus 50%. Okay, and that way I am going to give this 75%. Okay, so let's see what we have. Okay, so I think it's beginning to show, but then I'm going to add the height more. Let's see, I'll give it 6. Okay, still small. Let's say 10 pixels. All right, that's too thick, so I'll leave it at 8. All right. Okay, so the next thing to do is style the input element. Okay, so doing that, subscribe form. Okay, I'm going to get subscribe form. Okay, not subscribe form this time, but the input container. And I am actually going to get the inputs. Okay. Okay, getting the input, I'm actually going to be giving this input a padding. Let's go with padding first. Padding of 1.5 rem, 1 rem. So let's see what we have. Okay, that is too much. So I could actually say 1.2. Okay, still looking very big. So all right. Okay, so change this to 0.8. Okay, 0.8 rem. Okay, and I think I'll just give them a margin of say 1 rem. So there's going to be space between them like this. Yep. So there's going to be space between them. Okay, and then I think I'll work on the button. Let's see what the button has. Okay, so let's go for the button. So input container and input container, and then let's try and style the button. So and just like the input element for the button, we'll be starting with padding. Oh, sorry, we could give it a little width. So let's give it a width, and give it a width of say 10 rem. That's like 100 pixels. Okay, and it is looking better. Okay, so we'll put this as 8 and give it a padding of say 1.3 rem. Okay, that's too much. Let's leave it at 1 rem. Okay, even 1 rem is still too much. So I could say 0.7. Okay, and I'll give it the background color of black. I'll give it a color of white. And I'll give it a border of 1 set. And I'll give it a border radius of say 7 rem. Okay, that will not do. So 1.3 rem. Okay, yep. And I'll add the hover. And for the hover, I think I'll just change the background color. Okay. Hover. Let's change the background color. Oh, sorry. Let's see. All right. That's the color we want to use. Okay. And the only thing that's left now is this sample text. So let me work on this. So I'll call this subscribe text. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Subscribe text, I'll give it a font size of say 1 rem. That should be small. That should be small enough. Okay. 1 rem is even too much. So I'll give it say 0.7. Okay, 0.7 is actually okay. Yep, 0.7 is okay. And then I'll give it a font weight. Font weight of lighter. Okay, okay, the font width of lighter, and I think that's that. We are okay. All right, so I think what's just left is for us to position these elements very well. So I'm going to go up to where we did this, and I'm going to set this, say, subscribe text container. And subscribe text container, and then I'll justify content center, and I'm going to align item center. So if you actually check this, okay, some contents have been aligned to the center, some have not. Okay, for these ones, I think I'm going to do it manually. All right, so I think since the time is almost up, I am actually going to add this as part of your task. So you guys are actually going to have to, set this, align this to the center, make sure it's actually like this. And I don't know, okay, for now, I'm actually going to end the class. In case you have any questions you'd like to ask, you could ask them now. Let's say you have a window of, say, 5 minutes to ask your question before I hand over. So for those who have questions, you could actually raise your hand in case you have anything you want to ask. So Madina.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I just have a few questions. Before I ask my questions, this tax, we've done this tax and we submitted it. So are we to redo it, or is that submission link still open? So because you are saying that we should, because I'm also seeing some things that I didn't do well too. So I'm seeing it. You're correcting them now. So I want to know if you should redo it and send it again, or if you did just update. And the link we sent.
Not like I'll give you an update. This is going to be a totally different task from the other one. So some things here will be changing, which I will relay in the task channel, the sections which will be changed and what you guys are going to do. So I think I'll put that in the Google Docs in the document and post the link in the task channel so that details. So I'll give you details so that you guys know what to do.
Please, I have a question.
We are doing something different. Please, I'm not done.
Okay.
Are we doing something completely different from this one, sir?
Not something completely different, something like this, but then some things here will be changed. Hello? Okay, so does anyone have any more questions to ask?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, you're supposed to raise your hand.
Hello, sir. I'm not done, sir.
Please, sorry.
Yeah, you were mute for a while, so.
Okay, sorry. I didn't know I was mute. I was still talking.
Madina, hold on.
Please, I'm sorry.
Yes, no, it's fine.
Can I go ahead?
Hold on.
So Madina, hold on. So like I always say, please, before you speak, raise your hand. Happiness, okay? Don't jump in. Make sure you raise your hand before you speak. Please.
Sorry, I did not know. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's fine. So Madina, go ahead. Let him finish up and then you can continue.
Okay, thank you, sir. Please, I want to be clarified. Some people have been trying to explain to me in the chat that CSS command we normally call, the first CSS command that we normally call, is that what makes this Flexbox? Because I don't see really the difference between this and what we've been doing before, because this particular tutorial was called Flexbox tutorial. So what makes this Flexbox and different from what we've been doing before? Is it that initial command, that CSS initial command that we normally do, universal command that we put in this one that makes it different? I don't know if my question is.
Yes, I understand your question. What makes this different is that for this task, I used mostly Flexbox in aligning everything. So for anything I did that I had to align side by side like this, like say these images you're seeing here side by side together with this text, I use Flexbox for everything. So the aim of this tutorial was to actually help you guys see how you can use Flexbox very well. So that's the aim of this tutorial. So you could use Flexbox to actually design any kind of interface. So, and Flexbox is actually the first step. If you understand Flexbox, you could actually understand a little bit of responsive design. So this is actually the first step you're taking in understanding responsive design. So if you could actually know Flexbox and how to use it very well, which was the goal of this particular lesson, then you're actually one way further in being a front-end web developer guru per se.
So finally, sir, the command, that CSS command, the first command.
Okay.
What's
the first command?
Why do you always put that's a universal element CSS?
Okay.
So why do we? Yes.
Okay.
Seeing
why the use?
Yes,
what it's used for?
Yes. Why did we put it? Seeing that even within the system we are changing things, specifically. So why did we need to put that universal in there at the beginning?
Now, the need for us to put that there at the beginning is because the browser itself has these default settings. It actually does. So even if you're actually going to resize it with CSS or to set your margin and your padding with CSS, at first, the browser actually has its own default style. It's called the user style that is actually default by the browser, and most elements actually have that. So the best thing you could actually do is to do that reset so that whenever you want to style, it doesn't conflict with the browser's own style. Okay, so that's the reason for that reset, so that you actually reset everything to a basic standard where you could actually start doing it on your own, like resetting the whole page to the way you actually want it to be. So it's more like the name is, it is a reset, so that you could do things and you not have any glitches on the way. Say your browser is actually trying to make things difficult for you. No.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Happiness. You could talk now. Yeah.
Okay, good morning. Thank you very much for the class so far. Well, I actually want to ask that hover, why did you put the hover there and then the dash? Like when I did my own, I used HR instead of that one. I don't even know how you put it. Like it's confusing, Sha.
Okay, so, I am sorry. Okay. For the hover, the hover is in the sense that if I go to this button now and I hover around the button, that's what that hover there stands for. Whenever you actually go to a website and you try to click on a form, you found that sometimes the button changes when you hover around a button. So what happens when you hover around a button is what I just showed you. That's how you actually make the hover work.
So what's the difference between that one and border radius now? Like, isn't it almost the same thing?
The hover is different from border radius. So border radius is actually this curve you're seeing around this button that's making this curve rounded. Yes. Now the hover I'm actually talking about is once you hover on the button itself, you see the color changes from black to this.
Okay.
Now to actually make that work, that's
okay.
Yes.
So,
now, your second question about this line.
Yes.
I actually used here.
Yes.
I actually used a pseudo class.
Pseudo.
Yes, it's called a pseudo selector. Sorry, not pseudo class. Pseudo selector.
Okay.
Yes, which is this.
Which one?
This is a pseudo selector. See this highlights. This one I just highlighted now. Yes, this is a pseudo selector. Okay, so I am actually going to I might leave a link in the resources channel to a maybe a blog post that will actually explain this better elaborately. But for now, the pseudo selector, it is actually used to make more styles to a particular element. Now, what do I mean? This subscribe is actually a HTML element. Okay, I use the H3 for this. Now, if I actually want to make more style elements, now let's say, for example, there is like this now, this line now that's here now. I may not necessarily use a HR for it. I could use a pseudo element for it. Now, the reason I use a pseudo element for this is because this line, the way it is actually designed, it is showing that it is part of this subscribe.
Okay.
Because it is like it is centered. The only thing that's just there is that it just has a little bit of space between it and the subscribe. But then, if it was a HR which was different, it would stand somewhere, maybe somewhere here, and it will span the full width of the line. But then, about design is variety. So whichever Pseudo class to actually try and introduce it to you guys as a new way of actually doing things. So you guys will actually pick it up too. And then that's the reason why I use this pseudo class here before. And basically what it does is just to actually add more styles to a particular element. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if I actually hit the
you have more questions. Sure.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. Okay, so in the absence of any more questions, I think I'll be handing over to the host now. So thank you guys very much for attendance today. All right, that will be all.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Mr. Franklin. Thank you all for coming. So like he said, your task will be dropped on the channel. So please, I want to encourage every one of us to try as much as possible to meet up deadlines. Let's try as much as possible to meet up deadlines. And there's a bit of flexibility that we're giving now, but in the coming stages, it's not going to be given. So please let's step up, okay? I really want to commend each and every one of us for how long we've actually kept on pushing. So thank you very much and do have a wonderful day.
Thank you.